of the dramatic reading of Diamond, Tiara hunts down and systematically murders bad OCs. Before I continue where I left off, I am trying to read slowly, which, if done over a length of time, hurts my throat. So this is likely going to go in 3 parts. With that, let's continue. Diamond advanced an inch closer to Lonely, with every word out of her mouth, and it was all the latter could do just to maintain a safe distance. She only reached the 3rd table back from the front row, though, before Diamond stopped on her own. "I sit right there," she said, nodding towards the outermost stool on the 2nd row table closest to her. "Every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 to noon. And you're off to the left there up front, right? But those 3 pathetic mouth breathers who can't keep their tongues off of your precious little hooves. They're not pathetic," Lonely shouted, despite needing those 3 strong, thoughtful stallions to save her from anything worse than a paper cut. She was suddenly filled with newfound strength the second Diamond dared to insult them. "They're just really nice guys who know how to treat ladies respectfully and aren't total douchebags like the ones all the other fillies date," Diamond interrupted, uncannily predicting the exact words Lonely had been about to use. "Believe me, if there is one thing I know by now—" Diamond stood tall and stretched out her hoof, and with a buzzing tone and a flash of blue light, her unsheathed sword extracted itself from the ground behind her and flew back up into the crook of her foreleg. "It's how that story ends," she finished. Lonely barely had time to flinch before Diamond was upon her, their noses separated by mere inches, and Lonely's chin tilted up by the nauseating force of the flat of her blade. "Don't kill me," Lonely squealed. I know ponies. I can do anything you want. You'll be rich, the most popular filly in school." Diamond's eyes creased in confusion, and the transition to expectoration came very soon after. "Wow, you're oblivious," she muttered, raising her voice again once she noticed Lonely trying to squirm free and tightened her grip on her sword. "Okay, first of all, I'm already the richest and most popular filly in school, so good luck getting anywhere with that. And second of all, you really think I would have gone to all this trouble and chased you halfway across town if all I wanted to do was kill you?" Slack-jawed and numb with horror, Lonely could only keep her hooves as steady as possible underneath her and wait for Diamond to explain herself. And after lifting her sword off Lonely's throat and stepping back a couple of paces, explain herself she actually did. "You're going to deliver a message for me." Straddling the fence between panic and ecstatic relief, the closest thing to a coherent emotion Lonely could express was a fuzzy sense of bafflement. Message," Diamond repeated. "Dispatch. Memorandum. Communique. I have something I want Captain Hooves to hear, and you're going to help me tell it to him." "So, you're not going to kill me?" Lonely asked, and it was such a lovely feeling of relief, definitely relief now, flowing through her that she almost didn't notice that Diamond had taken a step forward again, or that she was smiling. Oh, lonely happiness. Or that, after picking it up again, she hadn't ever sheathed her sword. "I never said that." The pendulum of her emotions had swung over to joy in a fraction of a second, and with so little time left to react, the only thing left to do was let it swing back. Lonely happiness screamed and shut her eyes, and the gleam of moonlight on the hunter's sword was the last thing she ever saw. At that precise moment in a universe very, very far away, a portly young man in his late 20s awoke with a start, showering the carpet of his mother's basement with old candy wrappers and several empty Code Red Mountain Dew bottles. He sat up in his bed and swung his legs out from underneath his stained off-white sheets, and for a moment he sat in silence, idly scratching the stubble under his chin, staring at the dim glow of his computer screen across the room. From the distance, he could barely make out He could barely see the black heading of the document he'd left open before bed. My little introvert. Friendship is overrated. His brain still fogged asleep. The man squinted and read the first line beneath the title. My name is Lonely Happiness, and I have a golden and silver mane and bright purple eyes, but I'm really nothing special. He put his hands on his knee and chewed on his lip, and slowly but surely an itching sensation of distaste began to grow in his stomach. He said to himself, I need to rethink my choices in life. Captain Hooves strode menacingly through the halls of his manor, with his long black cloak flapping behind him, not entirely sure who he was supposed to be menacing to, but still intrinsically feeling that the gesture was necessary all the same. Behind him trode his faithful butler Alfred, who, in addition to being unfortunately named after someone his parents couldn't conceivably have heard of, had also been trying desperately to get his master's attention for the last 10 minutes. Sir, if you'd please just follow me to the bedroom. I have no need of your counsel. Instantaneously, Alfred, Captain Hooves interrupted. As it were, I'm traversing there now, irregardless. Very good, sir, Alfred said with a satisfied nod. He didn't always fully understand his master's choice of vocabulary, but he supposed that was to be expected from someone so intelligent and worldly. Captain Hooves had, of course, traveled to over 30 countries with his vast, rarely questioned wealth, and proceeded to maintain very open relationships with a variety of warrior princesses and world-class athletes with soft spots for erudite scholars. For all his skill and success, though, he still needed his trusty butler around for a bit of timely sage advice, and occasionally to do his laundry and heat up macaroni and cheese in the microwave. Their bond was truly a special one. With Alfred right on his hooves, Captain Hooves strode his way through several dusty living rooms and parlors. The captain had never had the heart to reorganize them after his parents. The original owners of the house had been tragically mauled to death by a terrible hybrid between a bear, a pig, and a pony. Finally, after what seemed like hours, but was actually an uneventful minute and a half that didn't really justify such a dramatic turn of phrase, he reached the house's master's suite and threw open the double doors to begin searching for whatever it was Alfred had been so keen for him to see. He didn't like what he found. It's the head, sir, Alfred clarified after noticing the puzzled frown on the captain's face. That of Miss Lonely Happiness, in fact. That I am thoroughly cognizant, Captain Hooves gruffly replied. She expired. Quite, sir. Dispossessed of her body as well, it seems. Captain Hooves nodded, then let out a grunt even more gruff and masculine than before. He approached the ornamental silver platter upon which Lonely's glassy-eyed cranium lay, and walked in a circle around it, examining it from every angle until he'd either had enough time to consider its significance or, as it looked from Alfred's perspective, had simply gotten dizzy. Alfred, the captain said, lifting a hoof in emphasis for a moment before hastily putting it back down to balance out his wobbly other three. To whom might I assign responsibility for this atrocity? Instead of speaking, Alfred just reached out and brushed aside a lock of Lonely's shimmering mane. With her hair out of the way, Captain Hooves could now see a pair of initials, D.T., carved in impeccable looping calligraphy into her forehead. Her contemptuous demeanor notwithstanding, you certainly can't fault the hunter's penmanship, Alfred dryly remarked, or her style. I care little for tomfoolery, Alfred, Captain Hooves cut back. From you or the hunter, she has crossed a line that shall not be uncrossed. Fetch me my ornament. I will pursue this wretched strumpet summarily and withal. That's not all I wish to discuss with you, sir. It was a rare thing for the captain to be cut off in the middle of a fiery pre-scene break speech, and it never failed to sour his mood. Then speak, he said. Those something else the hunter left for you. An ultimatum? Alfred pursed his lips and placed his hoof against Lonely's chin. A message, he said as he pulled his hoof down. Lonely's mouth fell open with a mechanical click, and after a few seconds of what sounded almost like radio static, a robotic voice emanated from deep within her skull. You have 2 new messages, it said. Lonely's head clicked again, and then after a loud electronic tone, the sickening sound of the hunter's speech filled the room. Hi, Captain. It's me again. I've been great. Thanks for asking. Just wanted to drop you a line and see how you were doing. Heard you were a little short on staff lately. Something about a bad case of the horrific disembowelments going around. Sounds like quite a pickle. As talents and narratively convenient consultation no longer required, Alfred tottered off to perform some small housekeeping task in the background and do nothing of particular importance. Meanwhile, Captain Hooves stepped closer to the disembodied head on his ottoman and continued to listen. Anyway, I thought I'd check up on you and make sure everything's okay over there. In fact, I might even stop by for a visit soon. Wouldn't that be fun? How about 15 seconds from now work for you? Looking forward to hearing from you. Love ya. Lonely's head beeped again, and the hunter's voice returned for a moment. Oh, and by the way, I killed your little servant guy. Apologies. Third and final click brought Lonely's teeth clacking back together. And with that, the hunter's dispatch was done. First a smirk broke out on Captain Who's face, then a smile, and finally a bout of deep, booming laughter. An originative threat, he declared, but hardly disquieting, for I just parleyed with my dear attendant not moments ago, and he's presently here in this very room with... To be fair, the captain wasn't entirely wrong about the status of his butler. Alfred was, in fact, very much present in the room with him. He just also happened to have a wide-eyed look of agony on his face, and 8 inches of maroon-stained steel protruding from his chest. Message for you, sir, Alfred gargled, unfortunately referencing a film he couldn't possibly have ever seen. The blade withdrew from his torso with a sound like that of a sword being pulled through the body of an unsuspecting housecarl, and he collapsed to reveal a magenta-coated earth mare with a lengthy purple and white streaked mane and a 3-foot-long katana clutched in her manicured forehoof. Diamond Tiara, Captain Hiv spat at his adversary. Seemingly undaunted by the spittle covering her face, the hunter put on a lopsided grin and responded in kind. Captain Hughes, I presume? Or can I just call a spade and say Daniel? If you would, milady, the captain growled. That's Captain Dark Shadow. Thunder Dawn, piddle lip hooves to you. Daniel it is, then. Excellent. Diamond Tiara hopped over Alfred's corpse and closed half the distance between she and the hulking, muscular pony standing in for a scrawny 15-year-old with a deviated spectrum and inferiority complex. When she noticed his eyes flickering back and forth between her head and her hooves, her smile grew. Like my new toy? She asked, presenting her sword with a flourish and spraying droplets of Alfred all over the place. You might recognize it. It used to belong to one of your buddies, a Mr. Brave Danger Pony, if I'm remembering that right. She spun the sword lazily in her hoof and giggled to herself at a joke she hadn't yet spoken aloud. Such a filly stallion, he called himself. Please! He couldn't have charmed a steak off a vegetarian, but damned if he didn't compose one beautiful symphony of destruction here. Top-grade Nippony steel, folded 2,000 times and enchanted with the magical force of a dozen unicorn souls. I don't even know how any of that's possible, but credit where credit's due. The guy made a good sword. Not to mention an even better piñata once I persuaded him to let me test it out. Your gas combination falls on deaf ears, Daniel said. Speak your purpose for penetrating my place of solitude. And that's part 2 of the dramatic reading. Yep, this is going in 3 parts.